Hello and welcome to Coping with Donald. I'm Phil. Today is February 20th, 2026. And the last 2 days have been very big in a certain way, especially today. But the last 2 days, no, it's the last 2 days, February 19th and 20th, should be known as World Anti-Authoritarian Day, where the world took and is taking some very important steps in combating anti authoritarians. Um, to make a long stories very short, yesterday Prince Andrew was arrested not for sex crimes concerning the Jeffrey Epstein affair, but for passing documents and emails to Jeffrey Epstein. As I said before, these Jeffrey Epstein files might actually save the world from the true swamp, the one that Trump's in the middle of, the swamp of their world order, where they meet, I guess, in secret, and everything is bound together by, at that point, Jeffrey Epstein, his desires, as far as dictating certain world policies. The people that were bribed under his power, and how those briberies were used to shape the world. I never thought that was real, and now I do. But it's not the Democrats and the European countries that were forcing the New World Order. It was the Jeffrey Epstein class, as it's being called now. They're a special class. They're not just elite, okay? In fact, some of them are downright slobs, like Steve Bannon. But the cabal was of a lot of people of power, some voluntarily involved in it, and some forced into it. Forced into it through their idiotic mistakes being preserved on film, on hard drives on the internet. But before that, I do want to say Prince Andrew was arrested yesterday. Another big thing was a former leader of South Korea who wanted to make himself into a dictator about a year and a half ago, who tried to enforce military rule of which he would be the head. He was arrested and yesterday sentenced to life in prison. So, did you hear that, Donald Trump? Life in prison for trying to put in martial law so that he could, in essence, be a dictator of the country. I don't know if you remember that night, but it was in the middle of the night. And Korean, in essence, the Congress, they were, many of their members were woken up in the middle of the night and they ran to the government buildings and had to get through police and beg them to let them in so that they could vote against this martial law happening. Okay, the third thing that happened was today. I heard a report that Putin is now limiting social media in Russia. For example, YouTube. You can't get on YouTube. And basically, he's shutting down these things so that you have to hear the official report from the Kremlin, from their bought and paid for news, which is saying that they're winning the war, which they are not in Ukraine. Ukraine is actually mounting some small offensive movements now. Elon Musk removed Starlink from the Russian cache of weapons or of communication that can be used, which has really screwed up their ability to, in essence, communicate with other troops that are there to rush to certain positions to defend them. And the Ukrainian drones are wreaking havoc on the Russian forces. The Russians have lost a lot of people fighting for them, okay? Putin can't go back and say, well, you know, we decided, we threw in the towel on this thing. Sorry, everybody. Sorry about all those dead people. He knows how bad that's going to look. He knows that his military members are going to come back damn angry for him putting them through that and not even getting anything out of it. He's trying to figure out a way to get out of this. But for now, he is lying to the Russian people. In doing that, he has also shut down communications that his troops could use. And I'll tell you, he'd rather have the Russian people just be in the dark on it. Now, to our own president, the maestro, Donald Trump. I know there are other ways to try to put in tariffs, but the Supreme Court today said that the one he was using, saying, oh, it's an emergency, national emergency, is abused by him, such as when he doesn't like what somebody says, so he wants to put on higher tariffs on the country. That's not national emergency, him being insulted or being said no to. Excuse me. So the Supreme Court ruled against the tariffs that are presently in effect. And that $800 billion of the tariff receipts that he had, and that was months ago, they're saying now it's only $200 billion. And they don't know if they're going to give it back or not. I have some thoughts on that. I know that we're still going to have tariffs, at least for now, until it can go through the courts, because he read this statement. It actually made me laugh. He said, we're going to try it with something else, the 1962 whatever Act. And we think it says that we can put in tariffs up to 50%. I'm very familiar with this. That made me laugh. Some law no one ever heard of. He's very familiar with it. You know, I guarantee you, he's less familiar with it than he is with the Constitution, and he's pretty unfamiliar with the Constitution. You see, the best thing about this isn't the actual tariff thing, even though it's messing up our economy, okay? But the best thing about it is that it sort of puts back into place checks and balances. The Supreme Court said no. 2 of the 3 judges that Trump has appointed on the Supreme Court said no. It puts in a situation, or it reaffirms the checks and balances, part of them, that are supposed to be in our government, that Trump has ignored in so many different areas of his policies, not just economic. Congress is supposed to approve tariffs. Congress is Republican, so they just stood by and said, yeah, whatever, I don't want to put my name on it, so go ahead and do it, Mr. President. It was a dereliction of duty by Congress, and another reason why they're going to lose badly this November. That is why I'm excited about it. That is why we can celebrate Anti-Authoritarian Day in this country. His Liberation Day has been canceled by the Supreme Court. He can't just go around threatening every country with tariffs every time he has a bee in his bonnet about that country. Oh, yeah, this law here, I'm very familiar with it, very familiar. Sure. Yeah, I bet. I bet. Um, One thought about these tariffs. They're talking about $200 billion. The Supreme Court really didn't specify whether the government should give that money back. Think about it for 1 minute. Businesses paid the tariffs, okay, to the United States to import these items, and then they sold them to other people who sold them or just put them on the market, got most of their money back with price increases. If they give the money back, the consumer's not going to get it. They can't track all that. If they give the money back, it's going to go back to the businesses who've already recouped most of the money by passing it on, the expense, to the consumers. Wow, what a windfall for them. But you know who else would get a windfall? Just think about this. There have been a couple of people running around to companies, while this has been going on for months, getting those companies to say, I'll give you a little bit of money, pennies on the dollar, if you sign over your rights to recover this money if the tariffs are negated. So I'm going to pretend an example. Costco paid $20 billion to the United States government for importing items. They might have gone to Costco and said, we'll give you $1.5 billion, but you relinquish all claims to the rest of the money. That's our money now, if it happens. People who are doing this, okay, two of the people that were, it's unbelievable. Two of the people that were doing this were our children of the Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. That guy I can't stand with the shit-eating grin all the time. He was standing next to Trump, and he didn't have that grin today. His children stand to get very rich off of this if the government gives the money back. That's money that you paid the government, okay? If you bought things like washing machines this past year. All right. And the last thing I want to mention is the victim, Donald Trump. Boy, he gave a press conference and he was like, I mean, I was almost expecting him to say the Supreme Court sucks. He was like the most tizzy-throwing little child. You'll see, I'm coming back. You'll see, I'm very familiar with all of these laws. Yeah, right. And he honestly, if you listen to his speech, I can't even get $1. I'm the president. I could destroy countries. I have the right to do that. But I can't even get $1 from them. He talked a lot about destroying countries. Too much so to feel comfortable, especially after Marco Rubio's speech, which was applauded and lauded, not just by the American right, but by the European representatives who were in on that speech, when he basically was laying out a blueprint for Western Europe and the United States to basically make colonies out of the rest of the world. That was my stomach, if you heard that, sorry. So anyway, Trump today, honestly, during that speech, I watched parts of it during that press conference, which of course he said, I'm not talking to you, you're CNN, you're fake news, I don't like you. I don't like you, you're fake news. Trump today looked like such a 3-year-old. And I looked at him, and he looked exactly like what he doesn't want to be. He looked like a loser. This has been Coping with Donald. I'm Phil. Have a fantastic day.